Oh. Ich hasse dich, Kevin.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Was knistert hier so?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Ah, so gut.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Don't get fired. Monetize free to play. Wir arbeiten bei EA. Ich hab es gelöst.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nö, da waren wir schon. Nein. Hier bleibe ich. Firehouse.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Kann ich bestätigen.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Okay. Und wir sind wieder am Anfang.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
AB, hilf mir! Man kann die ausschalten. Ja! Strom sparen! Alles, was ich jemals in einem Spiel wollte. Ich weiß, was du machst. Beamer Valentine, ja, romantisch. Wenn alles durchdreht.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ich ging wieder links rum.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Dann gehe ich halt dahin.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Ich will aber, dass da was drin ist. Warum kann da nichts drin sein?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ja, da unten lauert der Wahnsinn. Ich will wieder pissen. So, noch abgeschlossen. What? Ja. Extreme Bathrooms. Und die Time. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast. Money crisp. Ich weiß einfach nicht mehr, was ich sagen soll. Ja, wenigstens ist das Klopapier richtig rum aufgerollt. Gut. Was zur Hölle? Windows Monthly. Help, I can't find my cat. Could be indoors. Graphs. Business Strategy. Hilf mir, Brockhaus! Ich weiß nicht mehr weiter! Will ich da rein? Geh mal. Oh, es singt jemand. Geh mal. Hilfe. Bla 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 bla. La 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 la. Das reicht nicht. Kann die jetzt mal aufhören? Nein? Jetzt fängt jemand an zu stöhnen. Ich glaube, wir sind mal wieder an einem Ende Anfang angekommen. Ja, das klingt plausibel. Sind wir wieder hier? Geilster Fahrstuhl der Welt. Wieder dahin, wo ich hin soll.
Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
nicht weiter. Wieder hier lang.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Ja. Ja. Gehen durch das Tor zur Hölle. Ui.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Leckt mich. Dieses Spiel. Na gut, wenn ihr das hier seht, macht das eh keinen Sinn mehr, euch dieses Spiel zu kaufen, also. Countdown Desk. Countdown. Wo? Wo sind diese Enten? Ach so, Countdown Desk. One of the desks from an early version of the countdown ending. Freedom ending. This is the freedom as it existed in beta. Okay. Oh, evil. The game is now paused. Begin the game again. Resume the game. Options return. Escape menu. For a long time we had an ending that only ended. The player restarted from the escape menu. Very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do, which was frustrating for everyone. Ja. So, hier. Sending lief es. Out of the player would pull a lever and the narrator would describe what kind of lever. Oh. And to merge with another part of the game. Portal! Eindeutig Portal. Sending model. The sending went through many iterations. This one represents the fourth version of the ending and we thought it was complete but decided to abandon and change it again shortly before launch. Ja. Gut. Jetzt hier lang. Moment mal. Meeting room. Prima. Maintenance layout. The floor of the hallways following the first two doors was important to get right. Since players will reply them so many times. We discussed a number of designs, but ultimately it was the simplest version that won out. Two confusion endings. Disobey. Lounge. Ja. Gut. Trailers. Ran for major teaser trailers over the course of the game's development. Ich weiß auch nicht mehr weiter. Gehen wir wieder zum Ausgang.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Ja.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Ich weiß es doch auch nicht, ob es mein Büro ist. Ich weiß nicht.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Ich gehe jetzt einfach mal rechts
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before. Was it this room? A connection between the two? Could a man love a room? I mean, truly, truly, deeply, madly love. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful. A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Ja.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ja, bla bla bla.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?